Hey everybody, it's Matt Warrior here. I'm doing another review, and this time I will be tackling Robots, Rockets, and Rampage from War Gods of the Deep. And they just recently released a new EP called Robots, Rockets, and Rampage, and this is my review of it. So I discovered this band. They're from Chicago, Illinois, and they say they really like Kiss, Queen, Van Halen, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Anthrax, Boston, The Eagles, Prince, Def Leppard, and Journey, a lot to an almost unhealthy level. And then they also think Star Wars, the original trilogy, is good, and didn't mention any later Star Wars, which have to give some kudos to that in a certain way. Even though I like some of the later movies a little bit to some extent, expanded universe. So basically, they have a lot of interest in comics and so forth, and the album cover is very comic book like, and probably can see it on the screen. I'll try to put it up. And so, what do I think? So this is I've never heard this band before. The first thing I thought was sort of maybe kind of a militaristic vibe, like Sabaton. Kind of doomy, sort of sludgy kind of riffs. So the first song is Van Satoff. That's the first thing I thought, and it's kind of like really heavy production they have, and that first song kind of has like a kind of doomy riffs, not really doom metal quite, but kind of chanted vocals, spacey keyboards, super heavy guitars, and the keyboards really do add a great atmosphere. And I've kind of become spoiled at keyboards and metal because I know it was kind of controversial back in the day to have keyboards. People rebelled against it and stuff. But now it's pretty cool to have keyboards in metal, and it helps. So there's kind of sort of dissonant kind of sections to the song. And then the second song is a little bit more traditional, kind of more power metal-ish or traditional metal-ish or whatever. But that's not a bad thing because the riffs are still dark and kind of twisted. So, and the vibe on of the vocals kind of remind me sort of in between someone like James Hetfield, sort of like Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost. Think about in that vein. Maybe even some of the sludge bands and stuff that have more cleaner vocals. And I almost thought by the second song, this is kind of like a conceptual thing. Like if, speaking of Metallica, if they said, we're going to do a lot of songs in the style of the thing that should not be thematically and music wise, which is a great song off Master of Puppets, the thing that should not be. So it's kind of a epic, doomy, kind of near progressive at times, and it's really heavy. So I would say it's too clean to be actual sludge metal or anything like that, and it's too mid-paced to be doom metal, but it's kind of has some of those elements too. And the vocals are very hooky, but they're not pretty by any means. They're not extreme metal vocals, but they're not power metal vocals with Fabio Leone or whatever from Rhapsody, some Italian soprano kind of singer or something. So, and the third song is probably the best in my opinion. It's called This Evil, and it's definitely the most closest to kind of proggy, kind of twisted, like Merciful Fate kind of twisted riffs, with a few odd timings, and that kind of takes me on a journey. That's the song that is the best, and in my opinion, of this EP. So I do like it. I'm gonna check out more of their stuff. And as far as criticisms, I would say the only criticism I would have for War Gods of the Deep is probably the heaviest production I've heard all year so far is with this band. It's a very heavy production, but I would maybe have a little bit more keyboards in the mix. I know how hard it is to mix keyboards and heavy guitars in metal, especially with my own projects that I have. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go do another mix of this song I did 4 mixes of before, and I'm gonna pull up the keyboards a little bit. It doesn't really matter that much because it's still great, and people have their own taste, so it could be just to their own taste, but that's just my personal thing, my personal opinion. So, I mean, if we give you an example, like Devin Townsend, like on the album Ocean Machine, which is 20 years old, I think, this year, or near that, has a really crushing guitars, but he has a really expansive atmosphere. So I think they could up the atmosphere a little bit, and it wouldn't harm the band. But other than that, I think it's great. So I will be linking to the actual text of this review in this video, and I will see you all later.